This is
Radio
TPI.
The podcasts. It's only rock and roll. Well, not always. In November 2007, TPI went to Hamburg to attend the world premiere of the latest Holiday on Ice show, titled Elements. The production, which will be touring the world for around 3 years, features an imaginatively designed truss system designed by Bart Clement and custom built by Light Structures, and it's indicative of the Holiday on Ice organisation's new sophisticated approach to show production. One of the people we talked to in Hamburg was the show's creative director, Robin Cousins, the British figure skater who in 1980 won a gold medal at the Winter Olympics in the USA. We asked Robin about the aspects of the Elements show that make it a milestone production for Holiday on Ice.
It's the technology, and that's been happening in the past sort of 5 or 6 years with Holiday on Ice. In my day, very simple light structure that would tour. The sets, painted, costumes were always wonderful, music was what it was, but the technology allows us to have a set like this that can tour. It's the technology being able to take it apart, travel it twice in the same week, and the advancements of the lighting fixtures. So it's really, to me, it's more about the look of the show than the actual content.
Right.
Obviously, skating has moved on from how it was 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. So obviously the skating dynamic changes within the confines of the show, but it's how it's surrounded is really what allows the audience to sort of realize that we are in a different century now in terms of the technology and the lighting and the designers of our shows are now the same people who do rock shows, and they understand touring. So I've worked with people like Mark Fisher. Then we have Patrick Woodruff, who's doing lighting. We have Bart Clement, who's done now the last 2 years with us. So people who understand what I call, they know their big shit. You know, we've got arenas this size. You can't have the type of show that we had 20 years ago. These buildings didn't exist then. Now you have to have a scale of a show that can work in this arena for 11,000 people or can work in the Brighton Centre for 4,500 people.
Yeah.
This is going to be very tight in the Brighton Centre, but people are going to go like, wow. You know, and the ability to be a movable feast has always been one of Holiday on Ice's greatest assets, is that the containers, the way the show is moved around, the way it sits into a building, you know, our ice width, which means the set is basically always identical. But in Brighton, we're at half the length. You know, we just take plates off. So, I mean, the stage playing size can always change, but then what's overhead gets moved closer together or taken further apart. So it is, to me, I think it's the technology of what we are allowed to play with that has allowed the show to keep up its appeal and its modernity.
How does all this influence, I mean, you're directing the show, How does that influence your job?
The influence comes from the creative brief that we are given by the powers that be, that I then sit with my choreographer, with the set designer and the costume designer, and create. Sounds a little bit too twee really, but you're creating a palette, an overall palette. It's finding all the ingredients with which you're going to make your meal. You have to know what flavor you want first. You know, we're dealing with something that's spiritual, slightly Asian, otherworldly, not necessarily, but really I wanted something that really took it sort of out into the open. And last year with our mystery production, Bart was able to give us something that really brought the set out into the audience. And then when he went away after our first production meeting, and then he came back and he said, I haven't done what you've asked me at all. I've done something completely different. And I thought, okay, here we go. And, you know, he pulled up his computer screen and all this imagery started, and I was like, wow, it certainly has all the elements that we've asked for, but in a way I wasn't expecting to have it. And I wasn't convinced, I have to say, at the beginning, because it's hard to really see it. And then seeing pieces of it arrive, and then seeing the beast, as we call it, and the bullhorns at the end, I thought, and the fact that, you know, our lighting is so integrated within it that it is an entity in its own right.
Yeah.
Which I think is really nice, and that he started to show us that last year. So again, it's then down to Luke, our lighting designer, to be able to light and work with Bart and work with David for the costumes to really create it's atmospheric. And I think the one thing we have found with the audiences so far in our preview shows is that they're saying there's such a great connection and energy to the package of the show, which is really important before you get to the skating. And I think that's probably what we can offer now that we haven't been able to do in the past.